Hello there, and welcome to another football video. Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs winning Super Bowl 58. Remember when the Chiefs were lovable underdogs and we all wanted to see them win? Yeah, that's all over. But congrats to them. I didn't believe in them for most of the year, and they won. Never doubt Mahomes. I would say he's already a top 10 quarterback and a Hall of Famer in my opinion. With the NFL season now over, I thought we'd look at the greatest NFL team this year, the Dallas Cowboys. Why are y'all laughing? So, the Dallas Cowboys, they've been around since 1960 and they've had 9 head coaches since then. So, I thought, what if we were to rank every Dallas Cowboys head coach from the worst head coach ever to the best they've had? And if you know NFL history, you probably already know who's going to be number 1. So who's going to be in last might be more interesting. Where am I going to put certain head coaches that people remember? Find out here. I'm looking at their tenure, what did they accomplish, what was the situation they were walking into, and what ultimately is their legacy? How do Dallas Cowboy fans like myself remember? It's more note, I wasn't alive for some of these guys, but I can still see the impact some of them had. Also, I'm judging them based on their tenure with the Dallas Cowboys. Some of these head coaches coached for other teams, and some of them did very well for the other team. But we are judging them based on their tenure with the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys only, alright? I don't care what they did with another team, we're judging them based on what they did with the Cowboys. So, let's get started with who, in my opinion, is the worst Dallas Cowboys head coach. The worst Dallas Cowboys head coach is Dave Campo. Now, I don't know how many people actually know who Dave Campo was. So, Dave Campo worked with Jimmy Johnson on Miami. Johnson brought him to Dallas. When Jimmy Johnson took the job with the Dallas Cowboys, Campo went with him. He started out as a defensive assistant, a defensive back coach, and ultimately worked their way up to being the DC for the 95 season, and he held that position since. Campo took over as head coach in 2000 and held it for 3 years, and he was not good. Went 15-33. Now, there is some stuff that wasn't 100% his fault. Troy Aikman was banged up and not what he used to be and ended up retiring. The Cowboys went big on Joey Galloway, and that turned out to be an absolute disaster. Probably what he's most remembered for as a Dallas Cowboys head coach was in his first game of the 2002 season. He lost to the Houston Texans in what was their first ever game as an expansion team, and it wasn't well. While it wasn't 100% his fault, he didn't really do anything, and it's pretty easy to see why he's the worst Cowboys head coach ever. At number 8, I have Chan Gailey. So, Chan Gailey, he had the shortest tenure of any Dallas Cowboys head coach, only coached 2 seasons. And interestingly enough, he made the playoffs in both seasons. Went 10-6 his first year and then 8-8. But they got pounced in the wild card game both times, got absolutely destroyed. So Chan Gailey, Barry Switzer resigned. Jerry Jones hired Chan Gailey. And Gailey, he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers when the Cowboys beat them in the Super Bowl. And he's probably, to be honest, the most forgettable of all these coaches. He was only there for 2 years. He didn't really do anything bad. I mean, like I said, he did make the playoffs both times he was there, but how many of you actually remember Chan Gailey? And is there a moment that you remember? Like I said, he might be out of all these coaches the most forgettable. At number 7, I have Wade Phillips. So Wade Phillips, a Texas native. So Bill Parcells resigned. Now Wade Phillips was well experienced in the NFL when the Cowboys hired him. He had been head coach of both the Denver Broncos and Buffalo Bills before that. He had been a defensive coordinator for a very long time. Everywhere he had gone, he had done a great job. And his first year with the Dallas Cowboys was very good. They went 13-3. They had Tony Romo, Jason Witten, and Terrell Owens. They had the best record in the NFC. And they lost to the New York Giants in the divisional round. And that Giants team, which was the same team that beat the undefeated Patriots, the Cowboys had beaten them both times by double digits. Next year, despite high expectations, the team got out to an 8-4 start, and then fell to 9-6, needing to beat Philadelphia to make the playoffs. They played Philadelphia on the road and lost 6-44. Awful, they missed the playoffs despite having very high expectations. 2009 was a big improvement. They went 11-5, made the playoffs. They beat the Philadelphia Eagles in the wild card, and then they got blown the heck out by the Minnesota Vikings in the next round. 2010, Tony Romo got hurt, surprise. They start off 1-7, and after that, he was fired. I don't think Wade Phillips is a bad football mind. He's obviously an amazing defensive coordinator. He built that Denver Broncos defense that was great. He just was an okay head coach and didn't really do anything that memorable with the Dallas Cowboys. At number 6, we have everybody's favorite head coach on here, Jason Garrett. He was with the Dallas Cowboys for all 3 of their Super Bowls as a backup to Troy Aikman. Became a quarterback coach of the Dolphins, and then he became the Cowboys offensive coordinator in 2007. And this might be hard to believe, but at one point he was considered a hot head coaching prospect. Heck, the Baltimore Ravens offered him the job, but he turned it down. Wade Phillips, they went 1-7 to start the year. Phillips got fired. Jason Garrett took over as head coach, and they went 5-3 to finish out the year, which is very respectable considering how bad they started. Decided he wanted to be the most consistent head coach in Cowboys history. 8-8 in 2011, 8-8 in 2012, 8-8 in 2013. They blew a lot of games late in the year to miss the playoffs. And then 2014 comes. They go 12-4. Tony Romo has maybe his best year. Des Bryant's amazing. DeMarco Murray was amazing that year. How many people actually remember that? They beat the Detroit Lions in the playoffs. We're not going to talk about what happened in that game. And where they went to the Green Bay Packers, where Des Bryant caught a clutch 4th down pass to set them up at the goal line, only for Packers head coach Mike McCarthy to challenge it and get it overturned. We'll talk about him later. 2015, they actually did start off the year 2-0, but Tony Romo got hurt and basically missed most of the year. Des Bryant was banged up. They finished the year 4-12. Very bad season. 2016, Tony Romo got hurt in a season that probably should have been a disaster. However, Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott were both amazing that year. They went 13-3, best record in the NFC. They played the Green Bay Packers in the NFC divisional round, fell behind early. Came back, and then Aaron Rodgers made a great play to give the Packers the win. Now, 2017, there were a lot of expectations, and it was not a great year for Jason Garrett. Dak regressed, he got suspended, the team went to 9-7, and then 2018 happened, and I remember they got off to a very, very bad start. They were like, I think, 3-5. I was calling for Jason Garrett to get fired. Heck, a lot of people were. He probably would have. However, they traded for Amari Cooper. The team went 7-1 to finish out the year. They made the playoffs at 10-6. They beat the Seattle Seahawks in the wild card round. Got to go to the divisional round where they lost a game to the Rams. But a respectable season nonetheless. They started off the year 3-0, then lost 3 straight, then got to 6-4, then lost 3 straight, and then missed the playoffs at 8-8. After that season, Jason Garrett's contract did expire, and the Cowboys chose not to remove it. So, is Jason Garrett as bad as people like to remember him as? No. Believe it or not, he has the 2nd most wins in Dallas Cowboys history behind. We'll get to who that guy is later. They never really won much under him. They were basically a mediocre team under him. He was not the greatest at play calling in close games. He was way too conservative at times. And yes, if it wasn't for some of his ties with the Dallas Cowboys, I'm sure Jerry would have kicked his butt long before. Is he the worst coach? Is he as bad as some in the media and fans try to make him out to be? No, but to say that he was a good coach is wrong, and he was definitely there way too long. At number 5, I have Bill Parcells. So, Bill Parcells is obviously, in my opinion, one of the best head coaches of NFL history. He went to the New York Giants, won 2 Super Bowls there. He then went to the New England Patriots. They were kind of rough. He led them to the Super Bowl. He went to the New York Jets, who were coming off a 1-15 year. Led them to the AFC Championship game. Then resigned, gave the job to Bill Belichick, except he didn't take it. And in order to help pay for a divorce, he became head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys were bad. 5-11, 5-11, 5-11 under Dave Campo. And in his first year with freaking Quincy Carter as his quarterback, they went 10-6 and made the playoffs. They lost to the Carolina Panthers, who would end up winning the NFC that year. However, under him, they had a lot of trouble finding a quarterback. They brought in Vinny Testaverde. He never really worked out. They tried Drew Bledsoe out. He didn't work out. Then they benched Bledsoe and got to Tony Romo in 2006, and they finished the year, and despite a very inconsistent season from that year, they were able to make the playoffs at 9-7. They played the Seattle Seahawks, and we all know what happened in that game.
19-yard field goal attempt. Oh, it is fumbled by Romo, and then Romo's going to run to the end zone, and he's going to get tackled by Jordan Babineau. Amazing.
Now, as much as people love to get on Tony Romo for botching the snap, in all honesty, he should not have been holding kicks there anymore. Bill Parcells should have made the change the minute he became the starting quarterback. So now Bill and Jerry, I don't think 100% got along, and he ended up retiring after that. So Bill Parcells is a very great head coach. Now, Bill Parcells is obviously a very good head coach, and he's accomplished a lot with every team he's made. But I feel, like I said, I'm basing this off tenure with the Dallas Cowboys. And if you were to ask me, I think of Bill Parcells more with the New York Giants than I really do the Dallas Cowboys. Next up, we have their current head coach, Mike McCarthy. So I've had a love-hate relationship with Mike McCarthy. So Mike McCarthy, he was with the Green Bay Packers forever, won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, and obviously had a very successful tenure. And the Dallas Cowboys, I think Jerry Jones and Steven decided, hey, we have a team that can win a Super Bowl. Let's go get a proven winner. And that was Mike McCarthy. He had won a Super Bowl. He had some very good years with the Green Bay Packers. Now, his first year, I'm not going to count. Dak got hurt. The defense was terrible, 6-10. And then since 2021, they've gone 12-5, 12-5, 12-5. But if you watch the Dallas Cowboys under Mike McCarthy, this is what the last few years have felt like. They start off the year very good. There's a little intrigue, but you start to think, maybe this team can do something good in the playoffs. And they have a bit of a rough stretch in the middle or end of the year that kind of raised some questions, but you're confident. They still make the playoffs, and then they get embarrassed by the San Francisco 49ers. So the Cowboys have made the playoffs 3 times. And look, they did win a playoff game, though that was against an 8-9 Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, though it was Tom Brady's final game as a quarterback. Now, like I said, I don't think McCarthy's done a bad job. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with making the playoffs every year, but last year, 12-5. You saw my prediction. I thought they were going to go to the NFC title game. They got embarrassed by the freaking Green Bay Packers. Do I think McCarthy is terrible? No. If you are a Dallas Cowboys fan, this will tell you something. In the regular season, the Dallas Cowboys are 11-11 against playoff teams, which I was actually shocked when I read that stat because I thought it was way worse, but then you realize it's against like a 9-win Giants team. They can't seem to beat the good teams, and obviously this is going to be a big year for Mike McCarthy. The Cowboys have not announced a contract extension yet for him, so I'm assuming if Jerry doesn't like what he sees from next year, he could be good as gone. So, like I said, I've had a love-hate relationship with the guy, and I'll probably have that next year. Coming in third place, I have Barry Switzer. Now, I'm going to admit this one is kind of by default. Now, look, Barry Switzer was obviously a very successful college head coach. He won 3 national titles at Oklahoma, had a very great career there. And after Jerry and Jimmy decided to go their separate ways. Now, it's important to note when the Cowboys did hire Barry Switzer, he had been out of coaching for almost 6 years. And look, the Cowboys had a very good team still. He still was able to win a Super Bowl with that team, but obviously it was kind of meant by Jerry Jones to prove a point that any head coach could win, and Switzer kind of proved that. And after that, and despite that Super Bowl, they went 10-6. They lost to the Carolina Panthers, who were in their second year of existence. They went 6-10. He ended up resigning, and it's well known that he and Troy Aikman did not get along.
Somebody's got to get their attention, and I'll tell you, Jack, I am tired of being a guy who's got to run down everybody's damn throat all the time. Why don't we have a coach who gets over there and does something about it? Instead, we want to go over and pat everybody on the ass, and they haven't done a job all night. Guys out there off, and nobody says anything about it. We got a head coach who won't say anything about it. We got coaches offensively who won't do anything about it. Enough's enough. Babysitting's over.
And some of that does go back to their time, to some time back at Oklahoma. And let's be real, it's not a hot take to say Barry Switzer is the worst head coach to win a Super Bowl. Like I said, I don't think he's he's obviously a very accomplished college head coach. And I think what kind of hurt him, and it definitely hurt him in Oklahoma, he didn't quite seem to have, it didn't seem like he held players accountable well, and it seems like he kind of just let players do what they want. And
the classic story during that whole time, we're in Cowboys training camp. The night before, Michael Irvin had led a whole group of guys out on the town, and they all came in like at 6 in the morning. And they were all hungover. And you could see it. Everybody was half sick and kind of moping around. And Switzer walks up to Aikman and says, "What do you want me to do, cut Michael Irvin?" And Aikman looks at him and says, "No, you don't cut Michael Irvin, but you cut that guy, and that guy, and you make everybody run until they throw up in the grass." And Switzer says, well, I'm not going to do that. About 10 minutes in, he blows his whistle and says, boys, you're not really into it today. Let's call it a day.
I think him obviously being out for 6 years definitely hurt him, and well, I think it's a little unfair to blame him for why the Cowboys fell off a bit after him. The salary cap hurt them. Michael Irvin had some problems, but he was not the reason they won that Super Bowl, and he's really only here by default.
What I found was that the Barry Switzer that I played for at Oklahoma was not the Barry Switzer that I played for with the Dallas Cowboys.
Taking a massive leap up, we have Jimmy Johnson. So, Jimmy Johnson worked his way up the head coaching ranks, was coach at Oklahoma State, and went to Miami. He went to Arkansas University. One of his football teammates was Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones bought the team in 1989 and made a bold move, which was to fire legendary head coach Tom Landry. And as much as the fan base and football world loved Tom Landry, it was time for him to go. He hires Jimmy Johnson, an accomplished head coach at Miami, and obviously now he was taking on a very tough job, and it definitely took some time. His first year was pretty bad. They went 1-15. He even said that he thought his University of Miami team could have beaten them because that's how bad they were. They drafted Troy Aikman #1 overall. His rookie season was terrible. And then Jimmy Johnson made probably what, in my opinion, is the dumbest move of his tenure. Not saying he was bad, but he decided to draft his Miami quarterback, Steve Walsh, in the supplemental draft, and that cost Dallas their first-round pick in 1990. And this is where Jimmy decided to make a very bold move and trade away, without a doubt, the Cowboys' best player, Herschel Walker, to the Vikings. They got a bunch of draft picks back. And when this trade happened, people were not happy. I mean, they just traded away. However, people didn't understand that Jimmy wasn't interested in the players they got because the players they got were basically players Minnesota just wanted to dump the contracts of. He wanted the draft picks, and there were a bunch of stipulations in them. And with the picks they got, they were able to draft great players like Emmitt Smith, Darren Woodson, Kevin Smith, and Russell Maryland, who were huge contributors to their Super Bowl success. And next year, and in 1990, they went 7-9, which is a massive improvement. He won Coach of the Year. 1991, they went 11-5, won a playoff game. They lost to the Detroit Lions, which until just recently, that was their only playoff win. And then 1992, it all came together. They went 13-3. They made the Super Bowl. And then in 93, they went 12-4, won the Super Bowl. Obviously, a very good tenure. However, unfortunately, he and Jerry could not work together, and the two ended up going their ways. Jimmy ended up spending some time out of football. He went to the Miami Dolphins and had an okay tenure there. Led them to the playoffs 3 times, but never quite was able to get them to the Super Bowl. And heck, what I think a lot of people don't talk about for Jimmy Johnson is he had a pretty solid coaching tree. Obviously, Dave Campo was there, but Dave Wanstead, Norb Turner, Butch Davis, and heck, even Tommy Tuberville served under Jimmy at one point in their coaching careers. I think if Jimmy Johnson had stayed with the Dallas Cowboys for at least 10 years, there's a chance he's maybe an all-time great head coach with 3 rings. He did a very good job with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm so glad we finally put him in the Ring of Honor. It was about 20 years too late, but better late than never. A very great head coach.
I just got one more thing to say. How about them Cowboys?
Once again, your newest member of the Cowboys Ring of Honor.
And heck, he probably still would be a very good coach after what he said when the Cowboys sucked against Green Bay.
I don't need to have people pointing the fingers one thing or another. You get your rear end in there and you play the way you know how to play. We can win the game. We're going to open it up. We're going to go fast tempo. Defense, get after Jordan Love. You can't give him that much time. You do what you're supposed to do, we'll win this game.
All right. That's got Michael fired. He's got everybody fired up.
No, Mike, no!
Let me get in front of you. Me first, you right now.
But this wasn't a debate. Coming in at number 1 was Tom Landry. Tom Landry was head coach from 1960 to 1988. Had a very great, successful tenure. The first 6 years under his tenure were very bad. They didn't even win a game his first year as head coach. But over time, he led them to the NFC title game. They lost 2 close games to the Green Bay Packers. And then from 1970 all the way to 1978, he led the Dallas Cowboys to 5 Super Bowls, They won 2 of them. He developed some players such as Roger Staubach, Randy White, Tony Dorsett, a bunch of other great Hall of Fame players. He was definitely a beloved figure, not just for Cowboy fans, but for football fans. He completely revolutionized the game. Heck, even in the early 1980s, they were still very good. And then by 1984, he did start to hit his expiration date. They were pretty bad. And look, obviously, I don't think Cowboy fans wanted to see the best coach in their franchise's history gone just like that, but it needed to happen. He was way past it. But in my opinion, that shouldn't take away from how great of a head coach he really was. They were very consistent under him. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys are known as America's team because of them. The Cowboys wouldn't be the Dallas Cowboys without Tom Landry. He's not just the best coach in Dallas Cowboys history. He's one of the best NFL head coaches of all time. He deserves to be number 1. The Cowboys aren't the Cowboys without Tom Landry. So, those are my ranking of all the Dallas Cowboys head coaches. Let me know what you think. If you liked it, thank you. If not, please get mad at me. Bye.